My name is Elena Traina, and I'm a writer across media, a literary translator, and an independent researcher in creative writing studies. In the last 2 years, I've been researching how creative writing is taught in Italy, where structured creative writing courses are only available in private schools and not in universities. In this talk, I'm going to present a case study and best practice from the 18-hour fiction workshop held by Italian writer Marco Missiroli at Scuola Holden. Fuoripista fiction was delivered in spring 2021 to two different cohorts of 13 students of the one-year course Crazy Original, an unaccredited program in contemporary humanities, allegedly condensing the whole Scuola Holden in 1 year, and offering a range of different field training methods and storytelling techniques. This course was a Fuoripista, one of the optional modules available for students to specialize in an area or genre within the varied curriculum of Crazy Original. Other Fuoripista courses looked at publishing, literary translation, writing nonfiction and comics, while Marco Missiroli's Fuoripista was presented as an 18-hour fiction workshop with a strong focus on what he calls the sentimental structure. This paper explores anecdotal evidence captured in class through personal observation, along with the results of a qualitative survey to participants of both cohorts. Out of 25 participants, I excluded myself from the survey, 16 agreed to fill in the survey and provide comments. It's important to point out that while the two courses were meant to provide the same content, the first one was held online due to pandemic-related restrictions, while the second one was delivered face-to-face at the Scuola Holden in May. The struttura sentimentale is a concept developed by Marco Missiroli upon reflection on his writing process throughout the years. I have translated it literally as sentimental structure, in spite of the slightly negative connotation carried by the adjective sentimental in English, which is intended to mean, in this context, simply expressive of or appealing to sentiment. The sentimental structure is a theory based on the premise that what can be taught in a creative writing class can either belong to the upper part of the blackboard or the lower part of the blackboard. The upper part of the blackboard is where writing techniques belong, together with theories of plot, character, and world building and elements of style. The lower part of the blackboard is home to less definable and teachable components of one's own writing, including what Missiroli calls the sentimental structure. The sentimental structure is the writer's intimate structure supporting a piece of creative writing, a drive blowing life into its narrative and characters. As its name suggests, the sentimental structure is rooted in feelings and emotions experienced by the writer. Missiroli often talked about his sentimental structure as dealing with the absence of one's father and abandonment issues, and how this was declined in several of his works via different satellites. Satellites can be ideas, settings, themes, and images. According to Missiroli, satellites are embers onto which the solid breeze of the sentimental structure needs to blow for them to burn with vivid fire. Throughout the course, the tutor proposed activities aimed at discovering one's own sentimental structure. These were not shared in class, along with guided reading to understand other authors' sentimental structure. Missiroli consistently suggested digging deeper into authors' lives to draw connections between the personal experience and what they wrote. My understanding was that this approach was not meant to provide interpretations entering the realm of literary criticism, but rather help students understand that what they could consider a solid sentimental structure. Throughout the course, Missiroli referred to and analyzed two novels, Stoner by John Williams and Io non ho paura by Niccolò Ammaniti, and three short stories, Il Gorgo by Beppe Fenoglio, Affetto by Goffredo Parise, and The Swimmer by John Cheever. With the second cohort, Missiroli also asked students to read and comment on Popular Mechanics by Raymond Carver. Further understanding of the sentimental structure as a drive for one's writing was presented by Missiroli along with a list of symptoms, which the writer can recognize to understand whether they are on the right track when they're writing. Some of these symptoms are related to feeling of belonging and happiness, decrease of writing-related anxiety levels, erosion of loneliness, effectiveness, passion and excitement, development of guiding reflexes, and quantity. The symptomatology proposed by Missiroli seems to suggest that finding one's own sentimental structure can have an impact not only on the quality and quantity of writing, but also on the writer's well-being, with symptoms related to anxiety, loneliness, and happiness. When writers find their own sentimental structure, they can experience positive and healthy emotions through their writing, leading to therapeutic benefits. These, however, are not related to the content of the writing itself, as Missiroli is very careful to warn students that writing is not psychotherapy. This view goes against other pedagogies, suggesting that workshops can be embraced as places for healing, as proposed by Dai and Lee in the context of the creative writing course at Sun Yat-sen University, where almost every semester more than one student would cry during a workshop. While students can engage with traumatic experiences if these make up their sentimental structure, my understanding of this theory is that joy can be found in the writing itself. This is more closely related to one's own perception of writing and the anxieties attached to it, whether these be the fear of the blank page or perceived peer pressure, which give way to the pleasure of writing itself once the sentimental structure has been found. Missiroli's theory proposes ideas which can be ascribed to expressivist theories of writing, descending, whether directly or indirectly, from Natalie Goldberg's ideas in Writing Down the Bones. The sentimental structure can be compared to what Goldberg calls the essential awake speech of the writer's minds, and both theories seem to steer away from more romantic views of writing, such as inexplicable, fleeting psychic or hallucinatory visitation from the muse. Exploring one's sentimental structure, writers are responsible for nurturing their ability to express themselves by attempting to bridge subconscious and conscious thinking within the psychological selves, as Goldberg insisted on in Writing Down the Bones. The way to do that, however, significantly differs. While Goldberg suggests repeated engagement in exercises that link or conflate the conscious and subconscious activity within the deeper self, Missiroli warns his students that obsessive, repeated practice might lead to increase in anxiety levels, and he proposes a more mindful approach to one's practice. Again, Missiroli's theory seems to indicate that at the center of the writing activity should be the writer's well-being, and an exploration of the sentimental structure also entails an exploration of one's writing process, with the sentimental structure dictating the process itself, leading to either more visceral or more meditated acts of writing. According to Missiroli, writers should be looking out for a feeling suggesting that it's going to be fine, and let that feeling be the lighthouse shining light on their sentimental structure. Throughout the course of the 2 Fuoripistas held by Marco Missiroli, I had the opportunity to observe his teaching method and ascertain that his approach seems to be guided by principles of what Bell Hooks calls engaged pedagogy. Bell Hooks argues that as teachers, we can create a climate for optimal learning if we understand the level of emotional awareness and emotional intelligence in the classroom, insisting on how important it is to take time to assess who we are teaching. I compiled a list of best practice suggesting an engaged, writer-centered teaching approach, which, in line with the sentimental structure theory, prioritizes writers' well-being and their individuality. Marco Missiroli was open to communicating with students personally and timely in addressing their concerns and providing individual feedback. This is not to be taken for granted in the context of Italian creative writing workshops, where professionals who are called to teach are often very reticent at taking on the role of mentor outside class. He was interested in how students responded to the sentimental structure, asking them, how do you feel, and how did it feel after each writing task, engaging with more doubtful students. He was keen on defamiliarizing the class environment, both online and in class, encouraging students to look for more comfortable spaces to think, read, and write. This is a smaller detail, but it struck me as it involved me personally. On the very first day of class, it happened to be my and another coursemate's birthdays, and Marco Missiroli wished us a happy birthday, literally just seconds after he had introduced himself. Later, I found out that he checks his students' birthdays before starting each course to see whether they fall on or near his lessons, so he can wish them a happy birthday in class. This to me seems sign that as a creative writing tutor, Missiroli is attempting an engaged teaching practice which can lead to students writers feeling more confident in their writing and finding joy in the practice further along. This is the end of the recorded part of this talk. In the second part, which will happen live, I would like to present the results from a survey I had students fill in to see how their impressions of the sentimental structure theory and of Marco Missiroli's teaching approach compare to my observations presented so far. Then I will present my conclusions and address any questions and comments, and if necessary, I'll be happy to provide further context on how creative writing is taught in Italian non-academic institutions. Thank you.